Chapter 2, Section 2, Properties of Water. Key concept. Water's unique properties allow life to exist on Earth. Main ideas. Life depends on hydrogen bonds in water. Many compounds dissolve in water, and some compounds form acids or bases. First main idea. Life depends on hydrogen bonds in water. How do fish survive a cold winter if their pond freezes? Unlike most substances, water expands when it freezes. Water is less dense as a solid, ice, than as a liquid. In a pond, ice floats and covers the water's surface. The ice acts as an insulator that allows the water underneath to remain liquid. Ice's low density is related to the structure of the water molecule. Water is a polar molecule. You can think about polar molecules in the same way that you think about a magnet's poles. That is, polar molecules have a region with a slight positive charge and a region with a slight negative charge. Polar molecules, such as the water molecule shown on the screen here, form when atoms in a molecule have unequal poles on the electrons they share. In a molecule of water, the oxygen nucleus with its 8 protons, attracts the shared electrons more strongly than do the hydrogen nuclei, with only 1 proton each. The oxygen atom gains a small negative charge, and the hydrogen atoms gain a small positive charge. Other molecules, called nonpolar molecules, do not have these charged regions. The atoms in nonpolar molecules share electrons more equally. Opposite charges of polar molecules can interact to form hydrogen bonds. A hydrogen bond is an attraction between a slightly positive hydrogen atom and a slightly negative atom, often an oxygen or nitrogen atom. Hydrogen bonding is shown among water molecules in figure 2-2 in your textbook. But these bonds are also found in many other molecules. For example, hydrogen bonds are part of the structures of proteins and of DNA, which is the genetic material for all organisms. Individual hydrogen bonds are about 20 times weaker than typical covalent bonds, but they are relatively strong among water molecules. As a result, a large amount of energy is required to overcome the attractions among water molecules. Without hydrogen bonds, water would boil at a much lower temperature than it does because less energy would be needed to change liquid water into water vapor. Water is a liquid at the temperatures that support most life on Earth only because hydrogen bonds in water. Hydrogen bonds are responsible for 3 important properties of water. Property 1, high specific heat. Hydrogen bonds give water an abnormally high specific heat. This means that water resists changes in temperature. Compared to many other compounds, water must absorb more heat energy to increase in temperature. This property is very important in cells. The processes that produce usable energy chemically in cells release a great deal of heat. Water absorbs the heat, which helps regulate the cell temperatures. Property 2, cohesion. The attraction between molecules of a substance is cohesion. Cohesion from hydrogen bonds makes water molecules stick to each other. You can see this when water forms beads, such as on a recently washed car. Cohesion also produces surface tension, which makes a kind of skin on water. Surface tension keeps the spider on figure 2-2 in your text, or a water strider, from sinking on a pond's surface. Property 3, adhesion. The attraction among molecules of different substances is called adhesion. In other words, water molecules stick to other things. Adhesion is responsible for the upward curve in the surface of the water on the screen here, because water molecules are attracted to the glass of the test tube. Adhesion helps plants transport water from their roots to their leaves because water molecules stick to the sides of the vessels that carry water. Second main idea. Many compounds dissolve in water. Molecules and ions cannot take part in chemical processes inside cells unless they dissolve in water. Important materials such as sugars and oxygen cannot be transported from one part of an organism to another unless they are dissolved in blood, plant sap, or other water-based fluids. Many substances dissolve in water in your body. When one substance dissolves in another, a solution forms. A solution is a mixture of substances that is the same throughout, meaning it is a homogeneous mixture. A solution has two parts. The solvent is the substance that is present in the greater amount and that dissolves another substance. A solute is a substance that dissolves in a solvent. The amount of solute dissolved in a certain amount of solvent is a solution's concentration. 1 spoonful of a drink mixed in water has little flavor because it has a low concentration. But a solution with 4 spoonfuls in the same amount of water tastes stronger because it has a higher concentration. The liquid part of your blood, called plasma, is about 95% water. Therefore, the solvent in plasma is water, and all of the substances dissolved in it are solutes. Most of these solutes, such as sugars and proteins, dissolve in the water of blood plasma because they are polar. Polar molecules dissolve in water because the attraction between water molecules and the solute molecules is greater than the attraction between the molecules of the solute. Similarly, ionic compounds, such as sodium chloride, dissolve in water because the charges of the water molecules attract the charges of the ions. The water molecules surround each ion and pull the compound apart. Nonpolar substances, such as fats and oils, rarely dissolve in water. Nonpolar molecules do not have charged regions, so they are not attracted to polar molecules. Polar molecules and nonpolar molecules tend to remain separate, which is why we say oil and water don't mix. But nonpolar molecules will dissolve in nonpolar solvents. For example, some vitamins, such as vitamin E, are nonpolar and dissolve in fat in your body. Third main idea. Some compounds form acids or bases. Some compounds break up into ions when they dissolve in water. An acid is a compound that releases a proton, which is a hydrogen ion, an H+, when it dissolves in water. An acid increases the concentration of H+ ions in a solution. Bases are compounds that remove H+ ions from a solution. When a base dissolves in water, the solution has a low H+ concentration. A solution's acidity, or H+ ion concentration, is measured by the pH scale. The image on your screen here, you can see that the pH is usually between 0 and 14. A solution with a pH of 0 is very acidic, with a high H+ concentration. A solution with a pH of 14 is very basic, with a low H+ concentration. Solutions with a pH of 7 are neutral, neither acidic nor basic. Most organisms, including humans, need to keep their pH within a very narrow range around neutral, a pH of 7.0. However, some organisms need a very different pH range. The Alasia plant thrives in very acidic soil, pH of 4.5, and a microorganism called Picrophilus survives best at an extremely acidic pH of 0.7. For all of these different organisms, pH must be tightly controlled. One way pH is regulated in organisms is by substances called buffers. A buffer is a compound that can bind to an H+ ion when the H+ concentration increases, and can release H+ ions when the H ion concentration decreases. In other words, a buffer locks up H+ ions and helps to maintain homeostasis. For example, the normal pH of human blood is between 7.35 and 7.45, so it is slightly basic. Just a small change in pH can disrupt processes in your cells, and a blood pH greater than 7.8 or less than 6.8 for even a short time is deadly. Buffers in your blood help prevent any large changes in blood pH. Chapter 2, Section 2, Properties of Water. Key concept. Water's unique properties allow life to exist on Earth. main ideas. Life depends on hydrogen bonds in water. Many compounds dissolve in water, and some compounds form acids or bases.